Hello, listeners in Scotland and all around the world. You're listening to Weirder Hings podcast, all about paranormal in Scotland, brought to you by myself, Innes Smith, and
me, Michael McCann.
there you go, with tremendous gravitas and maturity.
Thank you very much.
You are listening to us on Paranormal Radio UK. Is that right? No?
It's Paranormal UK Radio.
Okay.
We'll get it one week.
There you go. Paranormal UK Radio .com. So it's paukradio.com. You can find us on Facebook. We are the Weirder Hings Podcast. On Twitter, Weirder Podcast. And on email, just be different and difficult, Weirder Things Podcast at gmail.com. That's Weirder Things Podcast at gmail.com. Now, we do have this email address. Has anyone got in touch?
They have. We have, for the last few weeks, I have been pestering our followers on social media to send us their...
Surely just asking politely.
Yes. Well...
Pestering's a thing of the past now. Come on, this is 2019.
Yeah. Well, I've been asking them for their real-life experiences, things that have happened to them. And some people did actually get in touch.
Fantastic.
So we're going to delve into them.
Delve
in them. There's a couple of good ones, a couple of scary ones.
Ooh.
And maybe also when I was reading one or two of these, the hairs on the back of my neck started standing up and I felt a wee bit uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
Reading them, so there's some pretty good ones. And I've also been... just because I was bored this week.
No.
I wasn't.
You weren't bored, were you?
No, I wish. I decided to kind of find out who's listening to this podcast.
Who is listening? Yeah.
And find out what their thing is, what their hang is.
Okay, I like that.
So I wanted to ask them some questions. So I just asked them. So the first thing I asked was, who is better, ghosts, aliens?
Who is better?
Who is better?
Like, who would win in a fight?
Yeah, who would win in a fight? What one do you believe in more?
Who do you fancy?
Who do you fancy?
Which you fancy?
Sleep with, marry, kill.
Right,
basically,
okay,
right?
yeah.
So we've got ghosts, aliens, and Sasquatch.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, okay.
Right.
48% of our listeners said they believed in ghosts.
Right, okay.
Or ghosts are better.
Okay.
25% said aliens.
Right.
And 28% said Sasquatch.
Oh, everyone loves it. Well, do you know what? If you're interested in odd, hairy Scottish things, then you're obviously going to like Sasquatch as well because, big hairy beasts.
I was surprised that Sasquatch came ahead early.
I can see how those interests would overlap. We obviously attract a substantial amount of big furry fans out there,
Must do. I'm surprised by some of those results. I thought ghosts and aliens might have been a bit closer.
Yeah.
But no.
No, but so a lot of people are interested in ghosts. That's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So it's just so we know maybe future episodes, what we're doing.
Yeah.
Then I asked, we all live
on a yellow submarine.
Which someone actually responded to.
Yeah.
Okay. We all live on a flat Earth.
Yeah.
In a simulation.
Right.
Either way, it's terrible. Right.
Okay.
So these are the results. 5% said on a flat Earth.
Right. 5%. Okay, that's brave.
Yep. 37.
Welcome 5% of flat earthers.
37% said in a simulation.
Right. Okay. Well, there's no way you can disprove that, so...
Yeah. And 58% said, either way, it's terrible.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah. And then the last thing...
That's very Scottish, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the last thing I asked was kind of based on what we were talking about last week, was, are psychic mediums real?
Right, okay. So, right, yeah.
I mean, we know that...
I mean, they really exist. I've met some.
Yeah,
but are their powers real?
Yes, are their powers real? Yeah. So 10% said... No, sorry. Yeah, 18% said yes.
Oh, right. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a very small amount.
68% said no.
That's extraordinary. So this is the same people are answering the same questions, and they think that 48% think that ghosts are real, but then the actual people that have psychic powers, 18%.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
And 14 were undecided.
Okay, fair enough.
So if you take that 14 and the 18, then still, still wins by a sizable margin.
Uh-huh.
So I thought some of those were pretty interesting.
That is interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be doing more polls like this because I think the results can often be quite interesting.
But what I think's
insightful.
I think
what we do in the podcast.
Absolutely, I think that's interesting because we've got quite a sort of critical and certainly open-minded, but still sceptical audience.
Yes, which is just the right mix.
And right mix. You guys are the right mix.
Yeah. You're just what we need on this podcast.
Yeah.
And speaking of psychic mediums, I was
attacked by one.
No.
But just psychically.
So it
didn't hurt.
No, I was speaking to a friend who decided... Remember, it was the same friend that I was speaking about last week who said that they went along to...
Was this your imaginary friend?
My imaginary friend.
Okay.
That only I can see.
Mr. Chuckles.
They went along to a well-known psychic centre to get... Because they went along to the evening thing and they never got, chosen. So they wanted...
So they do public demonstrations at this psychic centre?
Yeah, there'll be an evening where people go and they sit and then...
Does it cost them money?
Probably a donation,
okay.
I don't know. So they went along, didn't get picked out of the crowd.
Okay.
So they were determined they wanted to get something, so they arranged to go for a one-on-one.
They had the psychic horn.
Yeah.
They demanded satisfaction.
Yeah, they were like, right, I need to communicate with the spirits or whatever.
Yeah.
Went along, paid their... It sounds more like it was a palm reading type scenario than actual, speaking to dead relatives or
some
whatever.
form of divination.
Yes, some form of witchcraft.
Yeah.
They went along and they got the usual tripe.
So they paid for this?
They paid for this. And I nearly busted out laughing because this person's telling me, so I went along and then here's some of the things that I was told. Now, one of the first things that this person was told was, you're not looking after yourself and you should probably exercise more.
Right.
Which...
How did they come
as
up
the
with
person's telling me this, they're shoving a rolling sausage into their face.
Right, okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, alright, okay, I don't think you need to be psychic to really... And plus, we're in the west of Scotland. Most people don't exercise or look after themselves. So I thought that was just interesting. And then there was some other, hokey-pokey things that could be all... And the person themselves said, it was all a bit vague.
Right. So the person themselves, they were not impressed?
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
And then they told me some stuff about the setup of the place and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that sounds very set up to be more monetary than...
They've got the process monetised, have they?
Yes,
it's like
definitely.
A shakedown.
Yeah, this
you
place,
walk through the door.
Yeah, this place is a call centre.
Yeah.
Where they do
they have any psychic one-arm bandits?
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It never pays out though.
No.
Yeah. So it all sounds a bit nah. But it piqued my interest in what we were talking about last week. I would love, I started doing some looking on the internet to see who's out there, and I found a couple, and I'm like, maybe go along and do the can I record this thing, just to see what happens. It piqued my interest again.
Yeah, that was something we discussed in that show, and so we'll probably do it then. We'll spend the cash, and we'll do the experiment, see how it goes.
Yeah.
What if this person blows your mind, man? What if they completely blow your mind?
I'll be like America. I'll be a believer. I'll come on the podcast and say I'm a believer.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong to mock.
Yes.
I believe it now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll do, if it happens, if I get some good results, I will absolutely be like, no. Okay, fair dues.
Fair enough. How could they?
Yeah.
Come up with that gold.
And what I think I'll do is for safety is before we go, I'll make sure I've shut down my Facebook and stuff like that. I've muted I've hidden on Facebook and stuff like that, so they can't. So I can be like, well, they never checked me on Facebook and stuff like that.
Interesting, yeah.
So I think I'll do it, like, try and do that.
Oh, yeah. I've never, exactly. If you, why not book an appointment just under a completely different name then?
But how would that work, though?
Just book an appointment. Just say, I'm coming to book an appointment. My name's Jeffrey Dickinson.
But if they think my name's Jeffrey Dickinson, they'll be like, right, okay, there's nobody coming through for a Jeffrey Dickinson. Your name's Michael McCann. But that technically should be what happens.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and I think everyone else just spends the whole time just calling me Jeffrey.
No, just
So Jeffrey, I've got a lady here. Have you?
Well, do you know what? I think a lot of me. I mean, just say Mr. X. I'm not giving you my name. That doesn't matter.
Mr. X.
Mr. X. Mr. X.
Mm.
Do you want the money or not?
Right, so
Are we doing case files now? Case files. Members of the public coming to us and telling us stuff. Yeah.
yeah, right.
That was
So
the theme tune, wasn't it? It was good.
That was pretty good. So I've got a couple here. Some of them are a bit longer than others. Right.
Okay.
I'll do this one first because this was for me the creepiest one.
Are you gonna?
I've tried to get a mix, but most of them are ghosts, I think.
Do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, you do that. You do that one. There you go.
It's quite a big one, isn't it?
Right.
Okay, so first of all, are these people happy with their names being read out?
Yes.
Okay, then we've got to make sure that that's happened.
I
Okay.
think that one's just the first name.
Okay. Now, obviously, could you put some theremin behind this, maybe?
I will absolutely do that.
Okay. So this is our first account from James from Springburn.
Ooh, I like it.
I used to work as a guard in an office building in Glasgow years ago. The building was 8 floors and right across the way from a car dealership. My nighttime closing routine was to check each floor and the roof, then set the alarm and go home. Oftentimes, I'd prop the roof door open and have a smoke before taking off for the night. It was summer, and usually a nice cool temperature with a light breeze, so it was a great way to relax and unwind. I remember a string of peculiar nights on the job. It was an oddly starless night, at least as odd as starless can be when you're near a megawatt bright car lot casting humongous light pollution. I was in the lobby, starting my sweep, when I saw something across the street in the car lot. It was just out of the corner of my eye, but I could swear I saw someone running. No, something skittering between the cars. I gazed out there for a long time, trying to see if anything was actually there. After a minute or so, I shrugged it off and continued with my sweep. Still a little rattled, I had my smoke on the roof to calm my nerves. Gazing off towards the horizon, I caught a glimpse of the same motion down in the car lot across the street. I looked down and saw what seemed to be a person, but all wrong. It was poised on all fours on the bonnet of a Ford Focus, looking up at me. Its entire body was like an outline, just black, with only piercing white glowing eyes. I only saw it a moment before it flopped sideways off the hood and scrambled under the car. Needless to say, I bolted out and to my car, speeding home as fast as I could. But the next shift was the real killer. I had about 3 days off and plenty of alcohol and computer games to suppress that experience when I went back to work. Everything was going on as normal when it came time for my sweep of the place. Walking across the lobby, I again saw skittering, but this time more. I whipped my head over and saw several of the black figures in the forecourt momentarily before they ran to hide again. Nearly shitting myself, I rapidly ran through each floor, dying to go home. My roof check came, and as I burst out onto the roof from the door, I saw even more of the things from across the street, but a few were crouched near my punto in the office building car park. And this time, none of them looked away or ran. I spent the rest of the night in the security room at the back of reception, and quit my job in the morning. Thank you, James from Springburn. And I'm glad you didn't shit yourself.
I would like to just add that Innes is available for voiceover work if anybody wants.
I hope you didn't
that
find...
was beautifully... I can just imagine a guy, James from Springburn, having that voice. That would be amazing. A security guard.
I hope you didn't. It wasn't deliberate to play that for laughs, but and I hope you didn't think we meant any disrespect by giving it that treatment, James. But it's a fascinating story. It's a good story, isn't it?
That was the one that I was like, oh,
yeah.
It was slightly creepier when I didn't have your voice in my head, though. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So what do you think? It was a good one, wasn't it?
It was a very good one. I've heard some good stories about from Night Watchman.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's several buildings. There's quite a well-known publisher. Certainly started off as a Glasgow company. I think they've got offices all over. Collins.
Yes.
And they have a sort of a book warehouse or large. Whether or not they still have it, I don't know. It's now part of HarperCollins.
Right.
But I think Bishop Briggs. I think they've got a large warehouse or offices in Bishop Briggs belonging to Collins. And just as interesting stories from Night Watchman from there. A lot of them experienced odd things in that building. Objects moving around, things like giant potted plants, shuggling and objects moving and sounds. And I've heard stories from Night Watchman. I mean, obviously you would think if ever there were a profession that might encounter something rather unsettling, and considering that for the most part they're in large buildings by themselves.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
so if you're going to start to get the fear, obviously you'd find it quite unsettling. What's interesting about that is it's not really that building, it's actually this car.
The car lot across the road.
The road, yeah. And he's seeing it. I quite like the fact he goes out for a snout on the roof. And he's looking across at these weird beasties.
It was the part of the story that I found creepy is when the second time when they don't scatter away, they just keep looking at him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we see you. That would freak me out as well. But like you said, Night Watchman, definitely like there's a famous Glasgow story about the old transport museum.
Right.
And that was super haunted, and the people who brought that to the attention of the paranormal investigators were the Night Watchmen, who had to stay in there overnight. But the early part of the noughties, the council stopped keeping staff in the buildings overnight, and instead had like 24-hour security guards that would just patrol the outskirts of the building.
Yeah.
But when they were in the buildings at night, that's when they used to go, oh no, I hear things, or there's stuff moving, or that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because when I just left school, I had a job, but it meant I had to get up, like, it wasn't a night watchman, but I had to get up like 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning to start work at 4 in the morning. It was
Right.
like basically I was a stock taker
Right.
for the Walmart,
Okay.
which is like the company that owns Asda,
Ah.
owns Walmart in America, and they owned this company. It was an American company that came over and counted all the stock. So I did that for a brief time, and when you had to get up at that time in the morning to go to work, you would see the weirdest things.
Mhm.
I remember walking to work, and when I walked past a gym, and I remember looking up at the windows of the gym, and the windows in this gym are full length windows, and that's where the treadmills were. And I remember looking up, and there was a guy on the treadmill running in the pitch black at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what is he doing? And then I look over, and there's a guy, and it's like November, and there's a taxi driver washing his taxi in a string vest in the middle of November. It's freezing. I'm like, well, that's weird. People are just weird at that time in the morning, do weird things. So it's not surprising that you see weird or strange because you've kind of, that time of night, you've kind of got the place to yourself.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah, well, I used to be a postman, and it used to be a 5:30 start, but you'd often get into work earlier than that because basically the earlier you get finished, the better it was for you. So you'd often, you'd be travelling into the centre of town, early doors, before 5 in the morning. And yeah, like you say, you can see some odd sights, some delightful sights too.
Yeah.
But some odd sights nonetheless.
Any more sharing? Or
Any more sharing?
yeah.
Well, you found that if you went through the centre of town on a Saturday morning, that was back when you worked 6 days a week, and the Polo Lounge in the Monicas was turfing out. A lot of young gentlemen would get, "Hey, Posty, can I have some elastic bands, please?" And so you'd be handing out elastic bands to the gays because they wanted to wrap them around their penises. That's so to ensure optimum rigidity.
Right, so this was the days before things like Viagra.
That's it. You just had to stop a postman. It was public. I as a public servant,
We deal with many weird things on this podcast.
Well,
that's weird. So yeah, that's
go.
fine. We can tell
That's
that story. So on next, or do you want to do the next one as well? Because your voice is just.
If you've ever got a problem with erectile dysfunction, just stop a postman. They can help. It's part of the job. Postman bird.
Right.
What's next?
I was going to read something, but like your voice is just.
Are we doing this now? Are we?
Do that one. Right.
Okay. Back to this voice now. This is from Alan Higgins from Edinburgh. I want to start this off by saying that I don't really believe in paranormal things, but I'm not close-minded either. This happened around October of 2013. I used to work at an old movie theatre that opened sometime around 1945, and it's still a running movie theatre. Closing up at night by yourself was always a little creepy. The lighting in the auditorium makes you think that you see things out of the corners of your eyes all the time. One night I was closing up, and one of the last things I would do is go upstairs to turn off the auditorium lights before leaving. After turning them off and going back downstairs, I realized I left my jacket at the top of the stairs. On my way back up the stairs, I started whistling. When I got to the top of the stairs, I grabbed my jacket, stopped whistling, and I heard a woman's voice say, "Please stop whistling." I never left work so fast. I was pretty scared to be there by myself for a few months after that. Thank you, Mr. Higgins from Edinburgh. I hope you've stopped whistling now.
Yeah, so haunted cinemas. That's a popular one, right?
Oh, yeah. There used to, I'm trying to remember the name of the place, but there used to be there was an old cinema on Argyle Street in Finniston.
Yeah.
And it was then turned into, it was a bingo hall, and then it became an Indian restaurant.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah. So it was an extremely sort of grand interior, just because it was a massive kind of theatrical auditorium space. So huge ceiling height, and even sort of because of the floor, I think there was like raised areas and things like that. So it was quite an impressive interior. But the odd stuff, the people, apparently the staff in there, the bar staff and the staff in there, there's lots of odd experiences in there. People said that was haunted, but that was, it was sadly demolished and is now no longer there.
Yeah,
it's flats now there.
Just fancy student flats, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was sitting there thinking, I remember that building, and I'm like, is it still there? I couldn't remember if it's still there.
I don't think it's student flats. I think it's luxury flats.
Is it luxury flats?
Luxury flats.
Student flats. Well, it's got a student area, so it probably is full of students anyway.
What's happened to flats?
What do you mean?
Well, because you either get student flats or you get luxury flats.
Yeah, just normal flats for normal people.
Or you get social housing.
Yeah.
Nobody builds flats anymore.
Yeah, there's social housing.
Yeah.
For the social
people.
Yeah, because I don't think I've ever met anybody who worked in a cinema who didn't say it was haunted. So for some reason, cinemas and theatres are extremely haunted.
When I die, I want to go to the cinema more often. That's what they. Yeah.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
That's probably where I'll go to the cinema quite a lot. So that's probably where I'll end up is haunting a cinema. Yeah. It's not as fancy. Just be like a cine complex somewhere. Like a fancy modern one. Yeah.
I just need to see the next Avenger film in the Marvel franchise.
Granny will still be there.
Yeah. Or you could just get, Marvel to show you it before they die, because apparently that's a thing they do.
Really?
Yeah, I think most of...
God bless them.
Yeah, I think most of Glasgow's cinemas definitely of theatres.
Yeah.
I think they've all got like a ghost each.
A ghost each.
All of them.
Yeah.
So we did the Tron and the Haunted Glasgow one. Uses the Citizens.
Yeah, I've heard stories about the Citizens Theatre. Yeah, Theatre Royal probably as well.
Yeah,
Kings, definitely.
Theatre Royal's the one that's haunted by the firemen.
Oh, right.
The fireman died in a fire.
Right.
There.
Oh dear.
And there's a plaque outside, but I believe that's a fireman that haunts that one.
Right.
I don't know who haunts the other ones. Who haunts the Citizens?
No, I have no idea.
No idea?
No idea.
Alright, okay. So next we're going to go, this is quite a short one, we're going to your hometown of Paisley.
Paisley.
Irene, I believe, Irene Watson, I believe, is a regular listener
Oh, hi Irene.
to the podcast. So she sent her own wee one in. If you could give it the Innis treatment.
This is short, okay?
That is pretty short.
I hope not.
It lacks detail, but it's a bit oomph to it.
Okay. Irene Watson.
Should you make it slightly more feminine? Because it's a female this time, or you just got to...
No.
Oh, right, okay.
Irene Watson, Paisley. I was sitting by my computer one night, watching a TV show. I turned around for a moment, saw a boy between 8 or 10. He wore clothes definitely not from my decade, this side of the 1950s. And that's it.
Yep, that's
from
it.
Irene Watson from Paisley.
Yeah. So Irene's got a wee boy that haunts her flat.
What's interesting? Sorry, that was a bit loud. And what's interesting about that is that's very typical in terms of apparitions. That when the SPR down in Londonshire did their census of hallucinations, they found out that the most common time or situation that people saw apparitions was when people were reading. So basically, it's when you're doing, your attention is focused somewhere else, and then suddenly you're distracted or you notice an apparition. And so obviously the modern version of that, because it would be television. Most people watch TV or something on the computer, etc. And so yeah, there you go.
I found that interesting because my family, when they stayed in Edinburgh, had the spirits of a little boy haunting their house, and the thing that was interesting about it was every single member of my family saw it.
Right.
My mum saw it, my dad saw it, my brothers and my sisters all interacted with it to the point where
Like, get your feet off that couch.
pretty much like my brothers and sisters would be playing in their room. And my mum would look in on them, and they'd be like interacting with a fourth or a third, depending if my big sister's there. Depending on who was in the room, they'd be interacting with someone else who wasn't visible. My dad woke up one night to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Was kind of like stumbling bleary-eyed to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And he thought it was my brother that was standing in the hall, and he went to put his hand on his head and go back to bed.
Right.
His hand went right through, and it was nobody there. And my mum saw him, and it was just this wee boy. And then I think my aunt, I can't remember if my aunt or my gran, stayed across the back.
Whereabouts? What part of? You don't have to give street names or anything. What rough location of Edinburgh was this?
I'm not familiar with. Like, I can't say in Southside. I don't know. It was an area known as where was it? It will come back to me. I can't remember the exact name of the place, but my aunt or my gran, I can't remember, and she looked over to see if there was empty in the house, because I think she was going to. This was the days before phones existed, but people couldn't afford to have a phone in their house. And she looked over to see if there was anybody in, and she saw somebody moving about, and she went round and chapped it on. There was nobody in, but she's like, no, but I thought I saw like one of my brothers, and at the window, I seen them at the window. And I was like, no, they're at school. So like people like saw the wee boys standing at the window and stuff like that. My mum seen them. I can't remember my mum's account. It got to the point where they just named him. He had a name. His name was Joseph.
Did you see this child?
I wasn't born yet.
Okay, maybe it was you. Time
That's
travel.
yeah, time travel. It was me. It was me before I was born. Coming to visit. But yeah, and I think my sister. I don't know if my sister saw him.
Were you born in Edinburgh?
I was born in Glasgow.
Oh,
Me and my
right.
dad are the only Glaswegians.
Okay.
Everybody else was born in Edinburgh.
They're Edinburghers.
Yeah, Edinburghers.
And you're a Ouija.
I'm a Ouija. But yeah, so my grown up with that kind of family who had a resident ghost in the family, may have somehow grown up with that story. May have probably the reason I'm probably sitting here doing a podcast.
Exactly. Your interest is a background weirdness there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just that story jumped out at me because it was a wee boy aged between 8 and 10, and that was, and I think my mum said she described what he was wearing and stuff like that, but my mum had this idea in her head that he'd lost his mum, and he was looking for his mum.
I've got one of my favourite sort of odd ghosty stories from Edinburgh is a story. It was actually. It happened to my friend Jay, a very talented musician, and he went to stay through in this sort of flat in Edinburgh. I think maybe a couple of times or something. Don't know. He was there visiting either a friend or I think his sister might have had a flat. Oh, God knows. Anyway, the fact is, he was in this room. He went through to see a band, as we do.
Yes.
Many bands when they tour Scotland, they'll often just go to Edinburgh, the Playhouse or something like that. Yeah, won't come to Glasgow. So that's a lot of Glaswegians travelling over and backs. And And all it takes often is for the band to decide to do an encore and you've missed your bus or your train. So there's lots of Glaswegians seeking refuge amongst native Edinburghers. And so he's in this flat. And it was said it was one of these odd little rooms. He said it was an interesting wee sort of flat, sort of ground level or garden flat. It was a garden flat, basement flat. And it was basically the sort of west end of Princess Street. So it's just around about there, the back. So there's quite a lot of
townhouses.
Yeah, so quite a lot, quite lots of posh big houses. But
Arthur Conan Doyle lived in that area, I believe.
Oh, did he? Yeah, there you go. So roundabouts that end. And south, that you know what I mean. No, the posh big houses, but there somewhere. Anyway, who cares? We're getting bogged down in details here. It's because the actual story is quite short. But anyway, he was there, and just the room had a really odd feeling, an uncomfortable feeling. But the thing that really freaked him out is he went to bed and he just had really bad nightmares. He had really odd, just disturbed dreams, and he was just kind of really, really wigged out. To the extent that actually woke up really, really disturbed and kind of sweating, and then he noticed that his bed sheets, his covers, had actually been pulled off the bed, dragged halfway across the floor, and the ends had been stuffed into a 3-bar electric fire that was switched on, and he never switched it on, and obviously, but that kind of thing.
That sounds like something's trying to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, what the? And obviously pulled his bed sheets back and switched off the fire and thought that's completely mental.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep in there.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, so that's the thing. He was like, right, okay, I'm not doing that again. But apparently that flat there was a bad fire, unsurprisingly. Yeah.
Afterwards?
Afterwards, apparently when they moved out and they were thinking, okay, well, we're not staying here much longer, that flat, there was a really bad fire in that flat afterwards.
Wow.
So that was a pyro spectre.
There's a superhero.
Going to burn.
Pyro spectre.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I'm
a good
dead,
one.
and you're going to burn.
Aye, so that's a murderous ghost.
A murderous ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anyone died in the fire, but I think there was a fire in that
Well, the fireman just like going through the ashes, like, yep, there's been a 3-bar fire in this house with some sheets shoved into it.
That's it.
It's an insurance job.
And the ghost is going, hey,
yeah,
I got you.
Wow, that is quite spooky. A ghost tried to murder somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although there's my friend, she stayed in Belfast for a bit, and they were all on their flatmate. A couple of friends were all out drinking, and they met this just random guy, and they all went back to their flat.
Oh, right, okay.
And everybody kind of fell asleep. And then I don't know if I can't remember if it was my actual friend or if it was someone else. Kind of got up and went into the kitchen. This guy was in there like spraying lighter fluid on the worktops, and he had like crumpled up kitchen roll. He was ready to start a fire in the kitchen. They caught him. And instead of phone the police, just went, I think you should leave. And I was like, wait, did you like phone the police and stuff like that? Nah. I'm like, that guy's, just tried to murder everybody.
Yeah.
That was like, so there's a cautionary tale, kids. Don't invite any strangers back to your house after a night of drinking, because they might just try and burn your house down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sometimes the living are scarier than the dead.
But often in those situations, you're not ready for more confrontation. You just want less.
Yeah, you just get out.
Just go now, please.
Yeah, if that guy's willing to burn the house down with people in it, what would he have done if confronted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
a lucky escape.
Yeah, really, just because that person happened to wake up and saunter into the kitchen. Yeah, lucky.
I've got a wee. I've not. For those of you out there in the world that may not be familiar with the history of Scotland and Ireland and Northern Ireland, there are many links between certainly the west of Scotland and Ulster.
Yes.
and often not the cheeriest of links. But basically, there was during the reign of James I, there was a big land grab. Lots of Ayrshire Scots Protestants went over and basically set up farms in amongst the indigenous Irish Catholics, and apparently that's worked out really well ever since. Everyone's really happy with that.
Yeah, everybody's loved it.
Everyone's loved it.
It worked out for everybody.
It worked out for everybody. But the odd thing is I'm a big fan, as you might notice. We sit and record this in the equivalent of the library. So I like a good second-hand bookshop, and often charity shops now have really large book sections. And so I was off on a little professional begging trip off to BBC Northern Ireland, basically trying to beg for a job. Didn't get it. I'm not showbiz, but had enough time just for a wee poke about.
Okay.
And so I went for a nosy in the second-hand bookshops, and it was just you can get like a wee psychological snapshot of what's going on there.
Yeah.
And basically there was just like there was like a really, really high proportion of books on the British Army and Special Forces.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, loads of that, but then also a really high proportion of books about counselling suicide and depression.
Well,
I just thought there was nothing, no better little psychological snapshot of Northern Ireland than the bookshelves and Bernardo's, and
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I've been to Belfast once. And it's interesting you say that psychological snapshot, because something happened where I kind of thought anywhere else in the world that would have been ignored, but here it wasn't. I was staying with my friend in the flat that this guy tried to burn down, and I nipped it to the shop to get something, milk or something, and I was walking back to my friend's flat, and a car backfired, and there was two wee boys walking in front of me, and they jumped a mile in the air. They got the fright of their lives, and it didn't bother me. I was just like, it's just a car, but they like got a fright, and I was like, that's telling. Yeah. Because anywhere else that happens, no one pays a slight back. No,
because you would just think, oh, that's a car backfiring. Yeah.
But these two wee boys were like jumping. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's surprising.
That just shows you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. So this is. Okay. We'll just.
Do you want to drink water?
It's fine, thank you. Andy B.
Wait, that was too sexy.
Was it?
Yeah, it was too.
That's in your head.
Yeah, okay.
There was no sex in there.
Yeah,
if you thought, yeah, Andy B.
That's better.
I was camping alone at look, this is what is written, Andy B. I was camping alone up at Loch Arklet in my late teens. I used to go up in the summer myself and camp wild.
It just got sexy again, I'm sorry. It's just...
That's in your head. There's nothing happening here.
Just your voice and the story, it all just sounds a bit like the start of a porno movie, I'm just saying.
Right, just keep your state of arousal to yourself, okay, Michael, okay?
Right, sorry.
Okay? Well, we're just going to start again, okay?
Right, okay.
Have a drink of water yourself.
Yeah. Cool myself down.
That's it.
It's getting hot in here.
Yeah. Andy B. I was camping alone up at Loch Arklet in my late teens. I used to go up in the summer myself and camp wild back when you could get away with that. I'd basically stopped a remote part of some woods just off the shoreline of the loch. I was used to the noises and calls animals would make in the woods at night. Sometime after I fell asleep, long enough for the small fire to die down, I woke up with this immediate awareness that I was not alone. I couldn't hear much over the bug noises of summer, But then I heard voices off behind me. I slowly threw as much dirt and rock onto what was left of the fire and waited. It sounded like someone whispering or talking low. I strained my ears, but the harder I listened, the more everything began to meld together. At one point, it sounded like they were to my left. Then minutes later, directly to my right. And once it sounded like the voices were tuning in and out like a radio. Kinda quiet, then suddenly louder. I lay there motionless for hours. I fell asleep for a few hours after the sun was starting to come up. When I woke again, I packed up and crept back out of those woods. Just did not feel right. Haven't felt it since, thankfully. Thank you, Andy B. Well, that's very interesting because that's very interesting because that's very much part of fairy folklore.
Yes, and it's interesting because there's North American Native American folklore with similar stories.
Yep.
People have had like encounters like this in North America while camping. So what's the fairy deal?
Oh, it's a really, really common aspect of fairy folklore, but fairy experiences, not just anecdotes, but that are sort of anonymised or just stories that come through, but actually, people that say that just like Andy B, is they hear sounds of people and voices and crowds. Sometimes it can be quite a lot of people, and the whole thing is you can't really focus on anything they're really saying. It's just like there's this group of people that you can hear them, and often, there are stories of people even trying to find the source of the noise, and they go away and it disappears, but then they go away and then it comes back again, and it's just it's fascinating. It is a real and acknowledged phenomenon associated with the paranormal.
Yeah, in North America, there's apparently a spirit. It has a name. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but apparently same thing. You're camping in the woods, you hear voices and all this kind of stuff. But it was interesting because last night, when our last episode was going out, I caught the tail end of another podcast, Paradivas. They had someone on talking about Bigfoot. And I don't know the guy. I didn't catch the guy's name, but he was talking about a similar thing, but it was in relation to Bigfoot. So they hear this kind of indiscernible chatter.
Yeah.
That they can't quite.
Well, that's interesting, yeah, and they're making that link or assumption that that's the actual Bigfoot itself doing some chattery voices, and there's the idea that the Bigfoot itself might be a mimic, and it's actually mimicking human speech, these ideas, these notions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting because here we have Native American, North American, stories. Yet thousands of miles away in Scotland, we have similar stories.
Yep.
I find that very interesting. There could be something.
Well, that's the job of folklore, isn't it? It's the job of folklorists that they find these commonalities, these universal experiences. They might have slight local variations, but there's a core experience, and then that's why they end up categorizing all these things. Yeah,
there's a name. There's a thing that it makes me think of it is. I can't remember the name of this thing, but basically it was in
Chatty Man.
Yeah, not New Zealand. There was a sheep farmer.
Was there?
Yeah, in New Zealand of all places.
No.
And he installed a sheep gate
right
on his farm. And for anybody who doesn't know what a sheep gate is, it's basically at the entrance to the farm. It's like a grate over the driveway. So if livestock try and walk over it, they get stuck. Basically, their hooves will fall down and get stuck or whatever. And then one day he discovered that his sheep were getting out.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't. He's like, how are these sheep getting out? So he could not figure it out. So it turns out the sheep were going down, and they'd figured out how to get over the sheep gate was to lie down and just roll over it, right? Get up and walk away, right? And they thought that was weird behaviour. How did they know how to do that? But then, roughly at the same time, thousands of miles away, a similar thing happened in like North America or Canada. Sheep started doing the same thing. So they're like, right, how did this happen? Like, how are sheep in New Zealand and sheep in North America figuring something out roughly the same time? Like, it's not as if they can like email one another, right? They kind of go like, here, I figured out how to get out the farm. If you lie down and roll over, then you get out the sheep gate. You know, so is there some sort of link? No mystical link, but there's some sort of link where communication happens in some way that we're not familiar with, but it happens all over nature all the time. So that's what makes me think of that. Was there something happening in one place, but a very similar thing is happening somewhere else? And how is that happening?
Well, to put a sceptical hat on, it's just like, well, if sheep are going to work it out at one point, then other sheep equipped with the exact same sheep brains facing the same dilemma are going to eventually work it out at the same time as well. However, in terms of suggesting that there's something else at work, that's precisely what Rupert Sheldrake does, and that's one of the arguments he puts forward for the existence of morphic resonance. Morphic resonance, which is this idea that, because he argues that suspiciously things don't happen for ages, and then suddenly all across the world, similar things happen at the same time.
Yeah.
And he suggests that's evidence of some other mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
so that sounds like maybe what I was thinking then. Yeah.
Well, you were just describing exactly what Rupert Sheldrake was arguing for.
Yeah.
That there's some other thing, morphic field.
So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think?
I think it's interesting. There you go. I think Rupert Sheldrake suggests that there are such things that there's as a theory or a hypothesis, it's something that can be tested. So it's just about some sort of random process and how likely that is to spontaneously occur. And then if it occurs within something else on the other side of the world, then you've got to explain blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I just think it interesting, just as a casual remark, that there seems to be, from a psychical research point of view, one of the central arguments or notions behind any kind of paranormal experience or any kind of weirdness is that for you to see a ghost, you have to, in some respect, have a faculty for ESP. Otherwise, how does the information get to you? So the fact that there seems to be this disconnect between people who think, oh yeah, there can be ghosts and spirits, absolutely, but people that have psychic powers, nah. So it's really odd, because how would you then explain why people can see such things? Well, they see them because they have psychic powers. Yeah. Now, including just the fact that within your own family history, there seems to be this resident apparition. Yeah. Now, so the argument is, what's happening there? What's going on? Is that apparition an objective part of reality, which means that anybody can see him at any time, and indeed he could be recorded on video equipment because he's an objective part of reality? Or does he exist in some other way, which is only accessible through a heightened psychic awareness or ability? I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting. Psychics themselves talk about, or spiritualists talk about, raising their vibration or their awareness, so that they become open to these things. So there's this argument that you become more perceptive and aware and able to perceive these things the more you squeegee your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I think it's going to be interesting, because I think the last few weeks on this podcast, there's a theme developing a wee bit. Yeah, so I think we're going to definitely end up looking into all this stuff much more.
A deep dive
on some of this stuff. Because we've got some stuff coming up, I think.
Stuff.
Yeah. What I did notice was when I was on Twitter and Facebook asking for people to send me their experiences.
And thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah,
I hope
really,
you enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that rendering of your experiences.
Yeah. And we'll do more of those if you send them in.
Please send them in. I quite enjoyed reading them.
The email is Innes. Go for it.
Oh, just put the bit of paper away.
It's ww. No, it's not. It's the same. It's weirder things at Gmail. Is it Weirder Things Podcast?
I'll tell you.
I think it's Weirder Things Podcast.
It is. It's Weirder Things Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah.
The Facebook page is Weirder Hings Podcast. Twitter, Weirder Podcast. But yeah, once again, the email address is Weirder Things, not the Hings, just to confuse you. Weirder Things Podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, so
please get in touch.
Yeah, send these in, and this will read them out.
Because these experiences are gold, and it's just to reassure people. You know, I think we are, or certainly aim to be the archetypical open-minded skeptics.
Yes, definitely.
We are open-minded. We're not. Hopefully, we don't come across as being naysayers or poo-pooing anything off the bat.
Not at all. Not at all. I think we just like to have a little fun with it.
We'll have to a little fun with it, and but also, it's.
Yeah, also I'll be doing some more polls, so we'll come up with some polls and see. It gives us a good idea of what we're doing on the podcast, what you want us to talk about.
That's right.
If you have suggestions, someone gave a suggestion on was the haunted castles.
Yeah, that's great.
Scotland's
and we should probably go to haunted. One of my what you might say is my only paranormal experience that was corroborated independently. Yeah. So I would regard that as evidential.
Yeah.
So something that subjective plus subjective in a controlled setting equals something that you might argue is objective evidence, and that was happened at a castle in the west of Scotland in Argyll that is now a B&B, so you can go there.
So yeah, people hit us with your if you want us to talk about something. It needs to be Scottish though.
Scottish, aye man.
Yeah, we need. The podcast is aimed towards Scotland. Yes, our remit is Scotland.
So even though we dived over to Belfast, but that was again an act of colonial aggression, wasn't it?
On a sunny day, you can see Northern Ireland, so technically it's fine.
Well, do you know what? The Kingdom of Alba used to be basically Ulster and Argyll.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's a wee pitch there, for going back even before 1,000 years ago, 1,200 years ago.
Nice.
We were all together anyway.
Yeah. So send us your accounts, your experiences. Could be Bigfoot, could be Nessie, it could be
any
Scottish
big hairy monster stories.
Yeah.
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So we'll be back next week.
Next week. We will. We will see you next week, if the Lord spares us.